when you're put with the right people, when you're put with these really professional people in Nashville, I think they're going to bring out the best in me, and I may just actually like my own stuff.
Got a little bit of history on your name, but I want to know from you, why do you go by John Foster, not John Foster Benoit?
Man, I love telling the story because I think it's pretty interesting. So, obviously I'm from Louisiana, have a lot of Cajun heritage, a lot of French heritage, and my last name is Benoit, and so that's something I've always been very proud of. I've always loved my last name. I've always loved the idea of Benoit being, French, being a testament to my heritage. Also, Benoit is a rough translation to blessed in English, so I've always really loved that. But when I was getting into country music, it was like, man, I don't think I could go by John Foster Benoit. That's just not a really country name, And the main reason actually is when I was born John Foster Benoit III. That's my full name. My dad and my grandpa were both John Foster Benoit. And they were deciding what to call me because my dad was called Buddy. My grandpa was called John or Johnny, so I couldn't go by John, couldn't go by Buddy. They were thinking about things like Trey or something like that to differentiate me from my grandpa. And my maternal grandmother said, well, why don't y'all just call him John Foster as his first name? And so, yeah, it's stuck for all of my life, really, as John Foster being my first name. Like, Avery Grace or Mary Catherine or like any kind of double name with a hyphen. I just never really had an authentic hyphen. My middle name still is Foster, but I always just went by John Foster. So when I got into music and people would ask me, hey, what's your name? I would say my name's John Foster, but when I introduced myself on stage, hey, everybody, I'm John Foster. So I think about it as a mononym, like Adele or Prince, or Beyonce, people that go by just one name usually. That's what's in my mind. I just go by my first name. Everybody else thinks my last name's Foster, but I've kind of done, I think, a pretty good job at straightening that out. And like I said, it's a really interesting story when people ask, because it lets me talk about my Cajun heritage a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great. Was like T Benoit or T John or anything?
Yeah. My grandpa called me T Boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we got some of those in my family too. So, start out with your foundation. You're from Addis, Louisiana. How much of your distinct traditional country sound and even maybe your personal resilience do you attribute to the specific community and environment you grew up in? And perhaps maybe, I know about the family business. Was there a Louisiana effect at play that maybe shaped your journey?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Louisiana is one of those places, I think there's not very many in America that has its own unique identifiable culture. Hawaii is one of them and Louisiana is one of them. We have our own sound. We have our own food. Obviously, I'm very well versed in the food. My family owns a Cajun meat store, and we're also very unique in our sound. We have a Cajun sound that not only in the way we talk, but in the way our music is, that's unique and different from anywhere else on earth. That's incredibly special. To have our own sound, our own unique way of living, and being from Addis, it's that same thing. I was constantly immersed in good Louisiana music, good Louisiana food. And although I am a country musician, my unique sound is not just country. My unique sound doesn't combine from just George Strait and just Willie and just these country musicians. There's factors that are from my Louisiana heritage, things like, just certain phrases that I may say or certain ways. I can even play my guitar in certain ways that is all influenced by my Louisiana heritage. And like you said as well, not only my music, but there's just something special about Louisiana. And there's nothing textbook about it. There's nothing I can actually put my finger on and tell you its exact thing, but there's a special like feeling. There's a special way of living that is from Louisiana. And that's carried with me. I've traveled a lot of places in the last couple of months, and there's nowhere like Louisiana. I can tell you that for a fact.
No place like home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of Addis and the show and the hometown pride and all that, the collective rallying, what did that feel like? What was that experience like coming back home?
Man, I've always known that my community supported me. I think that's one of the main reasons that I'm standing before you today. And not even just in music, I'm just mean like physically standing. There's been terrible times in my life that the community supported me. There's also been amazing times in my life that the community supported me. They have done an incredible job at always uniting no matter what the circumstance is. In celebration, in tragedy, in excitement and joy. They always have united around whoever's the subject at that moment. And I am fortunate and blessed enough to say that for the past 2 weeks or so, I've been the subject of a lot of conversation and a lot of joy, a lot of love in my community. And there's no way that I could ever be runner-up on American Idol if I didn't have the support of them behind me. I just know I don't know the exact number because it's probably more than my mind can comprehend, but I know there's so many people out there who texted their friends, texted their family, sent the links to my music to their coworkers, all from my community. They're my root, they're my foundation. My hometown celebration was not something that you can easily throw together. You know, a celebration with 12, 13, 14,000 people in attendance and dealing with security, dealing with all of these things is not something that you can just, oh, yeah, let's do it. No. There was a team of people, and there was a lot of people in this community that made that happen for me, and that will forever be the best day of my life. And it was because of the efforts of everyone.
That's fantastic. Yeah, you had Addis coming together, you had Plaquemine coming together, you had the whole West Side.
Yeah.
Just found out that there's support coming from Baton Rouge too.
Yeah.
Imagine it was across the state.
Oh, yeah.
Heard a lot of stories about it. It was an amazing moment. Backtracking a little bit to when you got started, you started playing guitar about 15?
15, yeah.
Okay, and you started singing around 16?
Somewhere around that, yeah.
Okay. And is there anything that maybe you could walk us through as far as like a crucial early lesson, perhaps maybe a technique, some advice, or maybe a practice routine or something like that, got you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So my uncle Galen Martin is the reason I'm a musician. I'll tell everybody that. I've always said it because he had been a musician since he was about 12, 13, something around that. And when I was getting into music and kind of feeling out with it, he's the one that pushed me. I never wanted to be a musician. I'm not one of those people that was 3 or 4 or 5 years old and said, I want to be a huge rock star one day. I never wanted to be that. I wanted to be a paleontologist. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a senator. A lot of things. Music was not one of them. And so when I started to kind of feel out music and think about exactly what I may want to do, he was there to push me, sometimes physically push me on the stage, because he had connections with bands around the area. And when we'd go see them, he'd say, look, I got my nephew here. He's 15. He's thinking about singing. Would you mind letting him sing on stage? And they'd be like, oh my goodness, like another kid that wants to come sing. And I'd get on stage and there was a very positive reaction. And that was kind of those positive reactions from the crowd, from those little bitty crowds that I thought were huge. I thought you could have swore I was playing the Grand Ole Opry because, man, even those 40, 50 people that were in attendance that day were huge to me. As a very young musician, just being in front of a crowd was incredible. So in terms of just moments, I would say it was those early moments of my uncle pushing me on stage, my uncle pushing me in front of these people and their support. I can remember signing my first autograph and just that feeling. It's like somebody wants my name on their hat. That's a crazy feeling for a young musician, and I'm blessed enough to say that I've signed many more since then, but that first one I will never forget.
That's awesome. Would you say that was a defining moment on when you felt like your music went from hobby to where maybe it could be something more than that?
Absolutely. If someone really wants me to ink up their hat and put my mark on it, that means I'm doing something special. That means I'm doing my job as an artist. I'm connecting with the audience, and that was definitely one of those defining moments. But in terms of overarching moments, in terms of when I decided that music was my thing, it was absolutely 1,000,000% December 31st, 2022. It was the day that I lost my friends Maggie and Caroline. And before that, I was just kind of teetering around with the idea of music, playing it on the weekends, playing it here or there. And it wasn't until that day when I went through the worst day of my life that I sat down and wrote that song. And before then, music was just a maybe idea for me. It was just this is something that's cool, but I don't know if I'll ever really connect with it in that really special way that you need to connect with music if you want to be someone that does music for the rest of your life. And I wrote that song that day, and that was my it moment. That was it. That was after, I had tears flowing, my guitar was wet with tears, and I was looking at that song and reading it back and thinking, I just did this, God spoke through me and allowed me to put these words on this paper. And that was my moment. It was like, he has given me this purpose for a reason. He's given me these abilities. He's equipped me with this ability for a reason, to comfort, to celebrate, to whatever you want to do with music. That's one of the beautiful things about music is it's universal. You can celebrate with music, you can grieve with music, you can love with music. And I knew at that moment that he gave me the ability to do just that, to connect with the audience in a very special way.
Yeah, it's one of the very few universal languages
Exactly.
everyone can connect with.
Exactly.
You can feel it. And I think about that sometimes when, somebody might hear that and go like, well, maybe deaf audiences can't connect with music, but there are tons of deaf music.
There sure is.
Too, yeah.
There sure is.
That's fantastic. So how I imagine you're working on a ton of music right now. How's that coming along?
Oh, beautiful. Because one of the great things about it is, American Idol was amazing. American Idol was the reason that I'm here today. American Idol pushed me in my career farther than I ever thought I could. But I'm not a TV guy, I'm a music guy. And so I'm super excited to actually get started on the real work now. And I'm writing, I'm in talks with recording, I'm going back to Nashville soon and getting in talks with lots of people that we're going to make some really good music pretty soon. And I think people are really going to like it. I think I'm going to like it as well.
Good. I hope you love it.
Yeah, and I say that because a lot of times I do not like my own music. I'm very hard on myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll listen back to something. I'm like, oh my, who is this? But I am confident and I am excited because when you're put with the right people, when you're put with these really professional people in Nashville, I think they're going to bring out the best in me, and I may just actually like my own stuff.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it is with a lot of art. We were talking about this with film and movies and TV shows and all that stuff. We're in the edit room sometimes. First time you get through that first edit, you go, this is horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then if you get it to that point where you feel very proud of it, it's great. Yeah. So are you're working with Jelly Roll's label on that? Is that
maybe so? Yeah. There's a couple of different people coming at me from different directions. All great stuff though. All wonderful stuff. Nothing solid. Nothing I can really comment on, but just really great stuff. And Jelly himself, just a really great dude. I'm fortunate enough to have built a relationship with.
That's fantastic. Yeah, his story's amazing.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely.
Inspirational, and especially seeing just the years his journey has taken.
Right.
American Idol, unique pressure cooker in situation. Is there any techniques you use to help keep yourself focused and get through that? What were your thoughts while you were working through American Idol?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that separated me from some other contestants and allowed me to excel was that, so I'm a musician. Like I said, I'm a musician. I'm not a TV guy. And my thing, what I love to do is connect with an audience, whether I'm connecting with an audience over a screen or over a radio. My favorite thing to do, however, is connect with a live audience, connect with people, because they're my favorite thing. I love people. I love human beings. I think, we're all God's children. And the fact that I'm able to connect with them through my music is just beautiful. And so one of the things that allowed me to excel was that when I was on that stage, yes, there were cameras pointing at me that were broadcasting to 5.5 million people. I was really, really good at drowning that out. And I focused on the people that were in front of me. I focused on the judges. I focused on the audience. And when I did that, I forgot about the camera. Every time I stepped on stage, I forgot about the cameras, forgot about the mic that was, on me. And instead, I just went back to my roots. I went back to what I love to do, and that's sitting there and playing music to people. And when I forgot about that, when I forgot about all of that pressure, there was still pressure because there is still going to be some level of nervousness when you're performing to, however many people in there, 900 or so.
Right.
But not as bad as 5.5 million,
right.
And so when I forgot that and just went back to my actual music roots, that's what allowed me to excel.
Focusing on the music, tunnel vision to a certain.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
You're getting prepared for that. What does that moment mean to you? And if there are any artistic or personal choices you're making to prepare for such an iconic stage, what's your preparation like for that?
Yeah, man. So I was an academic person before I really got into music, and I still am. I'm juggling the two, but before I got into music, I was just academics, and especially history. I was really, really big in history. And so when I got into country music, I made it a point to be really interested in country music history. And I've read many books and seen documentaries, and the Grand Ole Opry, when you think of the idea of country music and you think of the idea of history, there's no better place to join those two than the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, it's just, it is the biggest stage in country music. That circle is humongous. And when I went to the Grand Ole Opry as an attendee for the first time, that was last April, I sat there, and during the opening number, when they have like the bluegrass tap dancers, which is not a sad thing at all, I was fighting back tears because of my excitement and my joy. I was like, oh my goodness, I've studied this, and country music is so special to me, and this is the stage that brought country music to real life, and man, it's so amazing to be here. So you can imagine how incredibly excited I am to actually be on that stage and to sing inside of that circle. And the main thing that I'm doing to prepare myself is touch up on my history, because that's what's really meaningful about the Grand Ole Opry, is the history behind it. And I think if I step on that stage with a touched up remembrance of why it's so special, why it's so meaningful, the people that stood there in that circle, it's going to be a really special moment.
That's great. So if we're looking into the future now, if you were able to fast forward 5 years into the future and you're looking back on all this now, do you have any specific goals in mind? I mean, Grand Ole Opry's got to be.
Yeah, that was my number one.
There on that.
That was my number one.
And American Idol's up there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you did both of those already.
Yeah, those are checked.
Is there anything else?
Man, so it's like the shoot for the stars dream. I love country. Like I told you, I love country music. I love music in general. And I will fight with everything in me to have a place in the country industry, and I will fight as hard as I possibly can to be someone who is in the mainstream country, who is being listened to and who's on the radio. And so the way overarching goal would be to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry instead of just singing there, to be a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame instead of just visiting there, which I visited there a bunch of times. I have these huge goals, and I'm going to fight every day to get to them. And hopefully one day I will.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Du ciel aider son Dieu me sauver de l'enfer. J'étais perdu, je suis retrouvé aveugle et je vois clair. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see.